This week we heard news that there may be relaxation coming for the regulations surrounding full self-driving. Well, autonomy, robotaxis, all of that, the kind of driving where there is no driver, there are some strict rules surrounding it. How much they're enforced is kind of another matter, but as these become more common and more popular and ubiquitous absolutely everywhere in coming years, we believe these regulations will need to be adjusted. And maybe we'll adjust them bit by bit. Maybe we'll do it all at once, but the news appears promising, and we're going to discuss exactly that. That's why I have brought on my good buddy, Herbert. Little buddy, and we're going to have a chat about that. I'm Brian.
I'm the big buddy.
Welcome.
You're the little. Okay.
Welcome to Futuraza. Of course. So, first of all, what have you heard? What's the news?
We're talking about the federal framework that is possibly going to be, the top priority for the Trump transition team is what the news came out. It hasn't been formalized, and if that's going to actually happen, but it's a great thing if that is the case. It is absolutely required. Especially, I keep trying to remind everybody, this isn't just about the United States. This is a global kind of economic warfare that we're here. And if China is going to go and try to, have this autonomous vehicles be in a stroke of, just by whenever they want to, they can have it in every single city, the entire country can do it in the same formalized way. It's going to be a huge leg up for them. And they'll sell more cars. Those cars will be able to have more autonomous capabilities, and there's going to impact their economy much faster. The US can't lag behind. So having a federal framework is absolutely required. Every single state has their own little tiny different changes. I still don't necessarily believe that that the regulatory framework was the reason why autonomous vehicles aren't here yet. And yet all of a sudden you see investors all saying, that's it. Now that we've got this in place, or it's going to be in place, then autonomous cars are here. It is one of the obstacles that needed to be addressed. But I always felt that, state by state, there would be enough states to have jumped on, set the stage, and then the other states would happen. But having said that, federal framework is absolutely important. You want to just make it as easy as possible, especially for Tesla and other car makers, autonomous car makers, to be able to just follow the same rules. And, it's kind of funny. It is weird that transportation is not a federal kind of mandate.
It's interesting. There are NHTSA guidelines around autonomy, but they are in their infancy and more restrictive than permissive. They just had to change some language, which they did. They changed steering wheel to steering controls. And they specified how many are allowed on the roads. And I've seen a lot of misunderstanding around that. Do you think that the rules in place today are too onerous, too restrictive?
Well, I think this is the rules that we're talking about here are what you just said, right? Which is, can you actually have vehicles that can not have a steering wheel, not have pedals, not have mirrors, side mirrors and so forth? And I think that the rules NHTSA has is, I can't remember the exact number, but something like 12,000 cars or something very small that they're allowing for little pilot tests. This would be expanding that to, it's not a limit anymore, right? Just go ahead and try this as long as it hit other kind of, criteria of safety. That's what you need to prove, not these. It is onerous if it's just limited to a certain number of cars today.
So I will clarify for you, it is worse than you think. It is 2,500, not per brand, per the U.S.
Yeah, that's
so
crazy.
That is too low. But there are waivers you can apply for, and every company that has applied for them has received them. And that is something that can be fixed with the swipe of a pen. The transportation secretary could do that whenever. It's not a challenge. It doesn't have to go through Congress. How will this accelerate adoption of autonomous cabs, specifically the Cybercab?
Okay, so I think it's huge, right? So number one, it's just there's just this kind of general limitation that people have that, autonomous cars will never get here. Number one, you have to solve the technology, but even worse is the regulation, right? How many people have said that, right? It'll never happen in my lifetime. It won't happen for 10, 15 years. you need regulation. So now that there's this concept and this idea that regulation may not be that challenging because you have an administration, the new Secretary of Transportation, what's his? I just reported on him. So Wisconsin senator, ex-senator from Wisconsin, and he's pro autonomy, he's pro self-driving, he's pro Tesla. So once you have this image that okay, regulation may not be as hard as we think, I think it's going to now supercharge not only the automakers but this belief by the public that this is real. I think very few people know that Waymo exists and Cruise exists and all these autonomous car companies that are out there testing this out. Only small pockets of people know that that exists. But now that you know that this federal is, government and the regulations are coming to actually promote it, then it becomes much more this people realizing, okay, this is actually a real thing. It's a real thing that's coming in the future. And yeah, I think it's a very good thing for both the side of the vendor as well as the consumer.
I would add to it, you'd said that some investors are saying, wait, this is a big deal today. And I would divide those investors into two camps. I'd say retail investors are very excited about it.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing with retail investors, even those of us who are already all in, is sometimes you do have more money you can put in. And that may be some of the bump we've seen. I think the institutional investors are taking a longer term view on it. They want short-term gains. Maybe they would jump in if they think people are going to be excited, regardless of whether or not that means revenue is right around the corner. What I would ask is, let's say instead of it being approved in a few places, like you mentioned, California, Texas, Arizona, Nevada, those already have approval. Those alone make up a good third of the country at least. If we had to start with just those states, do you think that Tesla could build the cars fast enough?
No, that's why I was never one that felt that regulation was going to be the rate limiting step. It was always going to take a year. Like they can do one whole state and a second whole state. What matters though, by the way, is the state, not because there are these regulations today. It's city by city, so you can't go this. I'm doing a pilot in this one city, but if you just cross this one line here, oh, that's not allowed in this city or this particular jurisdiction. So this allows it to be much more state by state, the full states, So I never thought that was going to be the rate limiting step anyways, because what happens is once you have one state adopt it, which we are already seeing, and then Tesla and other car companies prove that it's really effective, there's a race. Every state will want it because the impact of self-driving to the economy is so significant that they realize it's money. It's money that they're saving all over the place. And so,
So I'll share some advantages I see to a nationwide framework. One example would be, let's say you hop in a Cybercab in Kansas City, Kansas, and you want to go to Kansas City, Missouri, which you can see from here.
Yeah.
Are you allowed to?
It's like a line.
It's like a line. Another example is if your state doesn't require a front license plate, you're not likely to get ticketed in other states. They will say that while it's not allowed here, you're unlikely to get a ticket for it, things like that. The other big thing I wanted to ask about is, since I think you and I agree that the demand will be large, let me just ask, when this is level 5, verified at least 10 times safer than a human, what will the demand be?
Well, it's pretty straightforward as far as I'm concerned, because you already see it today, right? There's car companies, ride-hailing car companies called Uber and Lyft that exist today that are pretty big companies that are very successful. They charge $3 per mile, okay? $2 to $3 per mile. That's not even the surge charge. And so they used to be very much, when they were funding it and they were like subsidizing it, right? Remember, it used to be like, $50 to get me from my home to the airport, 20 miles. And less. Now it's cost me $75. I still use them, right? Because the cost for parking. So Uber and Lyft exist today, ride hailing, and they're very large. If you're able to bring that, a lot of this is really price. And then, of course, the other benefits, right? Which is I don't need to be with a driver. It's possibly even safer without, some sort of random driver that I have to step in the car with. If you feel that it's safer. So so number one, that if you bring down the price to $2 or even less, $1.50, let's say, because there's a promise that eventually these autonomous cars can be 25 cents, which is, a tenth of what you're charging now. But
I read that as the 25 cents is my cost as the owner,
as the
not
owner.
the cost to the consumer.
Right, I understand. But let's say that it's even just $1.50, right, which is less.
Yeah.
Automatically, not only will you match the market that Uber and Lyft already today, you'll grow it. And then once you get even lower than that, it replaces everything, like buses and people that would never have taken this can automatically just take it because the price is so different. And so the estimate is massive. Like, it changes society tremendously. It changes the behavior of people more than people are expecting. So the baseline is it's going to be the Uber ride-hailing market, but it's going to potentially just completely wipe out a lot of car ownership, short haul, long haul, kind of rides. Everything will be changed.
And if it is using LFP batteries, like I suspect, we have no confirmation on that, but I believe it's possible, they could use them overnight for stationary storage. You could arbitrage it during the hours when no one is using them. But that's getting a little ahead of ourselves. Here's an advantage that I see, because we agree that even if it was just a few states, you couldn't possibly keep up with demand. But if it's nationwide, forget it. You'd need to build a much bigger factory operating at much higher speeds, which they would do, but it would take time. No, the real benefit is if it's nationwide, you and I could enter the rideshare network with our robo-taxis that we already own.
Oh, you mean the Tesla owners that exist already nationwide everywhere in the world?
The threes and Ys.
All of a sudden, they
millions
the Tesla is going to be the number one beneficiary of something like this because they're already the leader. And so the whole idea of what we said at the beginning, right? Waymo and Cruise are already in certain cities, right? 7 states, 7 cities that they're expanding on certain geographies. And so if it becomes nationwide, it doesn't change them because they can't afford to expand. It costs them money because they still need these teleoperators. They need these, you and I just took a look at it, $8,000 minimum, $30,000 per car to outfit the car. But Tesla, if it works for them, we can do robotaxi today in every single state. So this is a huge benefit for Tesla because they will go nationwide sooner than later.
I will add one thing, and you can comment on it if you like, which is that I've heard people say on day one, it's not going. The regulation's not going to be rewritten day one, and it doesn't need to. We've got some time. We've heard Elon say he and with the addition that he has been known to be optimistic, the end of next year. Again, this doesn't take an act of Congress. This takes the swipe of a pen. I'm sure sometime in the next year and a half, the transportation secretary could find time to swipe a pen.
I mean, this is.
Am I missing something there?
No, this is good news because this is, something that is going to benefit society significantly. Not only the deaths and accidents, right? What is it? 40,000 people die every year in the U.S. because of fatal accidents in a vehicle. And then there's like millions, 2 to 3 million are injured because of this. The cost to society for this is massive. And then, like I said, efficiency, the improvement to economy because of all this is just so big that it's weird that anybody, including specifically NHTSA and other organizations, would do anything to slow this down. I mean, I get the whole point about, you need to do it safely. But if you compare it to a standard where the human driver is so bad, I call it human pilots. You want to compare human pilots to autopilots. And you're saying, oh my God, how dangerous it is to have all these autopilots out there. And they're doing it irresponsibly. But if you compare it to the deaths that are occurring with human pilots, you should be able to accept a certain number of issues. And I think this is where the narrative has changed, right? So now with this support by the government, with these kind of like well set, hopefully, criteria and everybody to understand what the criteria is going to be, the framework, then it becomes, accepted. And then we just move forward. And that's the benefit of what's happening.
When I was a kid, you had to drive the car yourself. You had to look at the road all the time, hold the wheel. You had to shift gears and not sleep. Yes, that's right, not sleep. It's crazy. And worth pointing out, NHTSA hasn't done anything to slow down autonomous rollout yet, but like you said, having clarification is hugely helpful. Understanding the guidelines so everyone's on the same page, and more importantly, states can look to that guideline and follow. Anything we're missing?
I think there could be a lot more conversation on the hardware of the car, right? I think that automakers will be much more likely to start building cars without steering wheels, without pedals, without just remember the whole discussion about just having the side mirrors. You can't remove that, and you've got already screens in front of you that you can look at instead of a side mirror. But no, you need those side mirrors.
Gotta have them. It's so crazy that only Europe has figured out how to actually make it legal, for crying out loud. I mean, we can't get adaptive high beams working. Come on, it's crazy. We are we're a third world country wearing a Gucci suit. It's crazy. Also, fun little thing I saw the other day. The question of, well, what if a person grabs the steering wheel? To which I've always said, yeah, well, you can do that in a taxi already. I saw a video from China where there's a plastic cover over it. And you can see the wheel spinning inside the plastic cover, but you can't touch the wheel.
And then when we get to steer-by-wire, I think even Lars Moravy of Tesla said already that it doesn't matter if there's a steering wheel there or not. You can remove those in a Cybertruck today if you wanted to. It'll still drive.
Well, and in the Cybertruck, when it's turned off, the wheel doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
And that's what they would do, is just disable it while the vehicle is in motion.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we've got a good handle on this. Guys, what did we miss? What did we misunderstand? Hey, head over to Herbert's channel, see what he's up to. He's always having a party over there.
Sure.
He is live all the time. It is, the party is where you make it. Everybody else, like, subscribe, leave a comment. They're mandatory. You know that. And stay tuned, stay juicy. And I cannot wait to hear from you clever robots when you're zooming down the highway bored because you're not driving.